All right, let's get right into it. We're about to unpack one of the greatest intellectual showdowns in all of human history. And this isn't just some dusty old philosophy lesson. No, this is about a teacher and his most brilliant student, a master and his protege, whose arguments from more than 2,000 years ago are literally shaping how you think, what you believe, and even how you use your smartphone today. So, to get right to the heart of their epic disagreement, just listen to this bombshell from the teacher, Plato. He said that art, a poet's work, is an imitation of an imitation. He said it's thrice removed from truth. I mean, what a claim. Why on earth would he see art, something we so often think of as a pathway to truth, as a dangerous lie? Well, that's the central mystery we're going to solve. And here it is. This is the fundamental split. It all boils down to this. For Plato, the teacher, true reality wasn't here. It was in some perfect, unseen realm of pure ideas. But for his student, Aristotle, reality was right here, right in front of us, the physical world we can see and touch and study. This one disagreement, the single fork in the road, sent all of Western thought down two completely different paths. So, first things first, let's step into Plato's world. To really get why he had such a problem with art, you have to understand his really revolutionary idea about the world we think we know, his world of perfect forms. Okay, so this is Plato's entire worldview in a nutshell. He called it the theory of forms. And the idea is basically this. The physical world you and I live in, it's not the real world. It's just a shadow, kind of like a flickering, imperfect copy of a much higher spiritual realm. And in that higher realm exist the perfect blueprints, the forms, for everything. Not just big ideas like justice and beauty, but for everyday things too. Let's make this super simple. Think about the bed you sleep in. For Plato, that physical thing, that's not the real bed. The one, true, perfect, eternal bed is an idea, a form, that exists up in that higher realm. The bed in your room, it's just a flawed, earthly copy of that perfect original. And this brings us right back to the main event, the battleground over art. Because think about it, if the physical world is already an imperfect copy, then what does that make a painting of that world? Plato breaks it all down in 3 simple steps. Step 1 is the form. This is the perfect divine idea of a bed. You can imagine it like a glowing, ethereal 3D model, a perfect blueprint in the mind of some divine creator. This, for Plato, is the ultimate reality. This is truth. Then we get to step 2, the object. A carpenter, who has the idea of the form in his mind, goes and builds a physical bed. Like the one in this glossy photo. But see, for Plato, we're already one step removed from the truth. This physical bed is just an imperfect, material copy of that divine idea. And that brings us to the final step. Step 3, the imitation. An artist comes along and creates a painting of the carpenter's bed. This beautiful, stylized piece of art is now a copy of a copy. We are now 3 whole steps away from the original truth. It's a shadow of a shadow. And that's exactly why Plato thought art was so dangerous. It just pulls us deeper and deeper into illusion and further away from what's real. But his student, Aristotle, he completely rejected all of this. I mean, he just wasn't having it. Where Plato saw a dangerous lie that diluted the truth, Aristotle saw something completely different, a basic human instinct. He argued that imitation wasn't some corruption of truth, but actually a natural, pleasurable, and really powerful way for us to learn about our world. And get this is the crucial part. Aristotle completely flips Plato's argument on its head. He famously argued that poetry is actually more philosophical, more serious than history. And you might ask, why? Well, because history just tells you what happened. It gives you the specific, particular facts. But poetry, through its imitation of life, can show us universal truths about human nature, about what's possible, about who we are. It's about the big picture. Now, leaving art aside for a second, Aristotle gave the world a tool that was so powerful it would become the foundation for, well, almost everything. Science, law, and yep, even computers. Let's take a look at his system for understanding reality itself, formal logic. At the very heart of his system is this thing called the syllogism. Aristotle was the first person to really formalize this kind of logical argument. You start with 2 statements, or premises, and from them you can infer a conclusion that has to be true. The classic example you always hear is, all men are mortal, Socrates is a man, therefore Socrates must be mortal. See, it's like a little machine for producing logical certainty. And all of that logic is built on these three fundamental laws of thought. First, the law of identity. A is A. A bed is a bed. Simple. Second, the law of non-contradiction. Something can't be both a bed and not a bed at the same time. And finally, the law of the excluded middle. Something has to be either a bed or not a bed. There's no gray area, no in between. Now, I know what you're thinking. This seems almost comically obvious, right? Of course, A is A, but what happens when we stop talking about letters and beds and we start applying this rigid, binary A or not A logic to the messy, complicated world of human beings and societies? And this is where that simple logic becomes incredibly powerful, and you could argue, pretty dangerous. The system creates these really stark hierarchical pairs. If you define A as master, then not A logically becomes slave. If A is Greek, then not A is barbarian. If A is man, then not A is woman. This logical tool, which was designed for clarity, has been used for thousands of years to build and justify all sorts of social and political power structures. So let's pull all these threads together. How does this ancient argument between a teacher and his students still echo in our world today? Well, as it turns out, their legacy is absolutely everywhere. What you're looking at here is basically the engine of Western thought. On one side, you've got Plato's idealism, always searching for a higher purpose, for perfect ideals. That shaped centuries of philosophy and theology. And on the other side, you've got Aristotle's empiricism, his focus on observation and data, which gave us the foundation for the scientific method. It's a constant tug of war between these two ways of seeing the world. And here's the connection I promised. It's amazing, really. That A or not A logic from Aristotle, that binary system of either or, on off, 1 or 0, that is the fundamental language of every single computer, every smartphone, and every algorithm that runs our modern world. It's Aristotle's logic right in your pocket. So you see, this isn't just some dusty old debate. It's alive and well. Every single time we argue about what is ideal versus what is practical in politics, every time we have an ethical debate about universal rules versus specific situations, we are, without even knowing it, reenacting the timeless argument between Plato and Aristotle, which really just leaves us with one final question to think about. After more than 2,000 years of this debate, which world are we truly living in today? Is our society ultimately driven by Plato's search for perfect transcendent ideals? Or have we fully embraced Aristotle's world of tangible substance, cold hard data, and logical categorization? The real answer is probably, well, a messy combination of both. And that ongoing tension, that's their ultimate legacy.